All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to our breakout session on outdoorsmen and climate change. My name is Drew Irely. I am the Conservative Outreach Director for Citizens Climate Lobby. Outdoorsmen, they live a lifestyle that directly puts them in line with the effects of climate change. So it's been a big focus of mine to really tap into those communities and get their perspective on, what they're seeing firsthand out there. So I'm joined today by Mr. Todd Tanner, president and founder of Conservation Hawks, and Mr. Brian Wagner from Trout Unlimited. Mr. Tanner, what's your organization doing in regards to climate change?
So, Drew, what we do is we reach out to sportsmen, to hunters and anglers, literally all over the United States, and we try and get them educated and engaged as much as possible so that they know what's happening. They can align what the scientists are saying with what they're seeing on the landscapes. And then they have the ability to reach out to their representatives, their senators, the executive branch from time to time and say, this is what we're seeing. This is what's important to us. Please address these issues. And, whether that encompasses clean energy or eliminating CO2 emissions, whatever it might be, we want hunters and anglers to get engaged on this.
Very good. Mr. Wagner, can you tell us about Trout Unlimited?
Yeah, sure. So just a little overview. Trout Unlimited, foremost, we're a conservation organization made up of over 300,000 members and supporters, and of course, a lot of trout fishermen. Our mission is to conserve, protect, and restore North America's cold water fisheries and their watersheds. So people that might be on here that don't realize trout need cold, clean water. When water temperatures get above 68 degrees, trout's starting getting stressed. So climate change is obviously a big issue for our organization. Trout Unlimited, we're known for a lot of our habitat restoration work, and a lot of this work already helps make streams more resilient to climate change, and but we need to do more.
So it's safe to say that we're all here, we're as outdoorsmen. I know, growing up in Pennsylvania, trout fishing was huge. 20 years now, I've seen the effects, the eutrophication, the warming of the streams, things like that really brought me to the table as an outdoorsman on this topic. So, Mr. Tanner, you being an outdoorsman, what were some firsthand things that brought you to this discussion?
Well, I think, Drew, there were a couple of different things. First off, I spent a lot of time outside. I was a fly fishing guide for a while, a big game guide for a while, and I loved to hunt fish. So when you're out on the landscapes, you see what's changing. You see temperatures getting warmer. Here in Montana, I'm not too far from Glacier National Park. Our winters are warming up. We're not seeing the extreme cold temperatures like we were 20, 30 years ago. Snowpack is down. Our runoff comes earlier. Our summers are sadly filled with wildfires and smoke that we never used to see anything approaching this level. So I was noticing all those things, and they impact me as somebody who loves to hunt and loves to fish. And then a little over 16 years ago, I had a son come into the world. My wife and I had a baby boy. And when you think about future generations, that's one thing when it's an abstract. It's something else when it's personal. And right now, my goal, I think a lot of our goals are to share, healthy landscapes and clean waters with the generations that are going to come along after us. And in my case, that's personal because it's my son.
I can appreciate that point of view. I know I was on the other side of this discussion until my daughter was born, and hunting and fishing has always been a huge part of my life. I got to take her for the first time this past season, and definitely it's something that I want to see preserved, through her lifetime as well. So, Mr. Wagner, you being an outdoorsman, why, what drives you to support climate action? Even specifically energy innovation and carbon dividend act.
So like Todd, I've been trout fishing since I was 5 years old. something that's important to me. I take a personal responsibility that, I want to leave things better for the next generation. And that's kind of the vision of Trout Unlimited. We want to make sure that we have, robust populations of native fish for the future generations. So, as an organization, I mentioned we do a lot of habitat work, like things like riparian buffer plantings. We work with dam removal. A big thing now is culvert replacement so that fish can move up and downstream to find cold water refuge, better spawning habitat. All of these things that Trout Unlimited has already been doing for years helps. But as an organization, we realize that, all this work is kind of being jeopardized by climate change, and that we needed to do something more. And we have a climate change work group that I chair, and we started vetting the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend bill, and we had some CCL speakers come on, and we kind of vetted it, and we thought the bill was fair and would be effective. So as an organization, we decided to support that initiative. Also, we're looking at other things as well, but we got behind that, and basically that's why.
Very good. So you guys both mentioned, the firsthand stuff that you're seeing. Mr. Tanner, you talked about how the animals aren't coming down out of the mountains, during the same time frames that they used to, which makes it harder for, the outdoorsmen to get up to them, to have a successful harvest. We talked about, the cold fronts aren't pushing the ducks south during the set hunting seasons, which is having a direct effect on hunting license sales and federal stamps, which generates so much revenue for conservation. And it's just there's a decline in the popularity, which really makes the need for outdoorsmen to get involved on these topics and have a voice in the conversation. So through Conservation Hawks, what are you guys doing to help educate your followers and members to give them a better voice in this arena?
So Drew, what we tend to do is we use the media as much as we possibly can. So we create articles, posts online. We do a fair amount of stuff through video these days. We've created 3 short films that have run in the fly fishing film tour over the years, where we have literally a tour that goes around the country, and we have a captive audience, and we get to talk about climate change for typically somewhere in the range of 10 to 12 minutes, and really fill folks in. We've done a short documentary for the Sportsman channel. So we're using the media as much as we possibly can to sort of amplify our voice and get sportsmen engaged. One of the things that's sort of nice about that is, the sporting media is trusted by an awful lot of hunters and an awful lot of anglers. So if we're able to, to reach out through platforms that these folks are used to frequenting, and they read a bunch or they watch a bunch, it makes it a lot easier for them to say, okay, there really is something to this. So we use media and social media just a ton.
Very good. Mr. Wagner, I know I've been to your calls and I've seen the great stuff that you guys are doing over there. Can you kind of explain a little bit here as well?
Yeah, sure. So, Trout Unlimited, we work on multiple levels, kind of similar, I think, to Citizens Climate Lobby. We have obviously national staff, we have state councils and chapters and grassroots members. So, we have a government affairs group, which is led by Steve Moyer. They follow legislation, advocate on Capitol Hill, put out action alerts to our members, things like that. We also have a robust science team led by our senior scientist, Helen Neville. Everything that we try and do at Trout Unlimited, we try and do it science-based, which is a good policy. As far as the work group that you've seen, on our last call, the work group is made up of Trout Unlimited leadership, grassroots members, and we're also, have the backing of the government affairs and our science team as well. So, as far as motivating our membership. We have on our website, we have a take action page that we currently have a climate change link on there. We also have on the website, we have a climate change page that has a lot of different documents and things that the work group has worked on over the years, including blogs and things like that. That we have worked on a kind of a message roadmap for our members to kind of guide them on the issue. And there's a lot of good stuff on our website there as well. Most recently, we just developed a new Trout Unlimited Climate Change PowerPoint that we're actually going to be debuting on July 22nd. And I can give you the link for that, but it's going to be a webinar. And I encourage anybody that's interested on this today to register for that. And you can really see a little bit more of what Trout Unlimited is doing with climate change. We also do other educational pieces in our Trout magazine and work on social media as well.
Good deal. Yeah, so looking here in the questions coming out of the audience, which if you guys want to go ahead and start dropping those in, you're more than welcome. I'm going to start pulling from there. A lot of people want to know, and it kind of goes in line with another question that I had for you. What advice would you give to climate advocates if they wanted to work with an organization, or be? Let me pull on over here and look at this. So, what advice might you have for advocates like our CCL volunteers who would like to build relationships with organizations like yours? Go ahead, Mr. Tanner.
Well, I would say the single biggest thing that anybody can do, Drew, is to reach out. So like with us, the best way to do that is to go to our website, which is conservationhawks.org, and drop us a note, get in touch. There is a page there for people to sign up. And what we try and do is if somebody has a particular talent or a particular interest, we try and point them in the right direction, whether that's helping us out or helping somebody else out. We certainly would be happy to send folks to a group like TU, which is doing just outstanding work on the cold waterfront right now. So, the big thing is get in touch and make us aware of who you are and how you might be interested in helping.
All right. So building off of that previous question there, how would you suggest that, our members go out and talk to just regular old hunting and fishing communities, organizations, whether it's a guide service or, a charter service maybe for fishing?
Okay. Is that one for me, Drew, or do you want Brian to take it?
We can go with Brian for that one.
Yeah. As far as, Trout Unlimited, we actually have a TU business sector. You could reach out to them. As far as, you could also reach out to our local TU chapters that may know some guide services or something, maybe help with the conversation. But we actually did a TU business survey a few years back, and most of our businesses, had a concern about climate change. So I think it's certainly people that you could reach out to. We did a recent survey of our membership, and 40% of the people that responded said felt that they had a decline in their fishing experience. So it's real, it's out there. I think you can reach out to these people, and as far as for guides and businesses, it's economics. If people can't fish because the water's too warm, they're going to lose business.
Yeah, that's always been my approach. Talking with these communities is to, before proposing the solution, really talk to them about the problem first. A lot of them don't. There's a disconnect between climate change and what may be impacting their business, or their lifestyle for that matter. Like I said, the big thing that I've seen is with the ducks. So there's a lot of duck guide services out in Arkansas and Louisiana, down through that way. Going out there and helping to show them why they're not seeing the populations of duck, help them identify the problem, and then when they start asking for the solution, ease into it. It's been real successful in my experience. So, Going here, we have Beth Carmichael. Are your chapter members generally aware of CCL? I'm assuming this is for you, Brian. Are your chapter members generally aware of CCL and what we are doing? And would they be willing to join our lobby meetings with members of Congress?
So climate change awareness is something that we've been working on with our membership over the years. And, we really are working on the awareness angle of it. So I think more and more of our chapters and members are aware of CCL, but it's probably best to go through, we have some of our states, we have what we developed as climate change coordinator volunteer position. So, it's probably best to go through, right now myself or I can probably get you in touch with someone in a state that you might want to reach out to rather than just going cold to a chapter. But, so I would go that route, but we've been raising awareness, and that's we're kind of moving into a little more of the advocacy end of it now.
So here's a good question from Helen Hands. As a longtime hunter and former wildlife biologist for a state agency, I know it's hard to get many hunters to care about environmental issues when they may have to support politicians they see as anti-gun. Do you see the same problem with climate change, Mr. Tanner?
Yeah, that's certainly true. It is an issue. What we are always trying to do is something that CCL does, which is to take the partisanship out of this. We make a point of not focusing on the fact that more Democrats than Republicans are interested in climate change. And we actively tell people that this is not a partisan endeavor. This is something that it's an American thing. If nothing else, I mean, if you're a sportsman, if you love to fish, you love to hunt, you should want to have healthy landscapes. You should want cool, clean waters. You should want to be able to pass that stuff along to your kids and your grandkids, and that's not partisan. So, I understand that an awful lot of folks do view things through a partisan lens, but it's helpful for us. And I would say it would be helpful for anybody, trying to push this forward with hunters or anglers to make a point of saying that this doesn't have to be a partisan thing. It's the climate stuff is science, and science is inherently not partisan. We've sort of moved away from that recently, but hopefully we're going to get back to a point where people understand that this is, it's reality based, and we need to step up if we're going to make a difference.
Yes, sir. I definitely agree there. If the hunting and the fishing isn't there, what do you need the guns for anyway? So moving on. Mr. Wagner, Susan Hess asks, since TU National has endorsed EICDA, does it make sense to get endorsements from local chapters?
I believe some local chapters and councils, I think, have offered their support. I don't see an issue with it. With getting the local chapters on board with as far as supporting. I think there are some that have.
I believe there has been too. I think any support, especially with local, having local chapter support and then being able to tie it back to the national organization, especially when you're talking to your representatives, you're getting that big umbrella as well as your local constituency all supporting it. I think you're just compounding the effect at that point. So it's popping up here from a couple different people. Now I know, Mr. Tanner, conservation hawks, you don't put your eggs in one basket. You are, you just want something common sense and reasonable as far as policy goes, and you're willing to put your support behind anything like that. Am I accurate? Can you elaborate a little bit more on that one?
Oh, sure, Drew. The way we look at it is, we're not politicians. We're based out of Montana. We're a long, long way from DC, and we're not engaged in lobbying on a regular basis. What we're looking at is the idea that anything that's going to help on climate, we're in favor of right now. So for example, there's a big push right now on the infrastructure bill, and that's essentially Biden's climate plan is the new infrastructure bill. So we're certainly hoping that politicians on both sides of the aisle will recognize that this is something that's really important to do. It's a way to get some serious climate action out there, as quickly as possible. But that's not the only way to go. Obviously, CCL has its engagement with representatives and senators. We just support really strong, really serious, really substantive climate action. Regardless of where that comes from, we just don't feel like right now we can pick and choose. We want whatever's going to go forward.
Next question is going to come from Edward. Can you propose? I know you said you do a lot of media-based stuff. I'm sure both organizations do. We'll fire this one back to you, Mr. Tanner. Can you propose any media outlets that are followed by fishermen and hunters that might be? Oh, I just lost it. Something got upvoted. People are upvoting stuff. Can you propose any media outlets or anything followed by, the outdoor community that might be good for us to advocate on?
Yeah, I think that, what I would say is that, a particularly good platform would be Trout Magazine, which TU has been putting out for years and years and years. I started reading the magazine back in the 80s, I believe. But Hatch Magazine does some really, really good stuff. They're an online platform. I would say that we are seeing, more climate stuff sort of across the broad spectrum in some places that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Orvis is doing a bunch on climate right now, and they have a very robust social media presence. They're always putting out posts and they're talking about it. Patagonia as well, another large company that does a bunch on the hunting and fishing side, more fishing than hunting for Patagonia, although they do a little bit of hunting stuff that people don't know about. But I would say Hatch and Trout are two places that, especially for anglers, if folks are interested in reaching out and saying, hey, we'd like to see more of this, or we have an idea for a story, those would be two good places to go.
That was definitely my approach coming in. We do a real great job of getting op-eds and LTEs in major media, posts, journals, stuff like that. But I want to see a push in getting our stories into the releases from organizations like Trout Unlimited, Ducks Unlimited, First Light, National Wild Turkey Federation, and getting the more personal stories out there and less of these scientific articles. I know DU does a really good job of, pushing some science-based stuff, but getting personal anecdotes put out there. So that's good to hear. You think the same way. Now, Mr. Wagner, there's a lot of people asking how they can get in touch with, get in contact with their local TU chapters.
Okay, yeah, I think probably the best thing might be to maybe for now shoot me an email and I can work with our vol ops or contact the state council or if they have a coordinator in that area. I think that might be the best way to start. If they want to go through me, you can provide my email address or I can type it in. I also have some links I could share. Should I put them in the chat box or?
Yeah, that'd be fine. All right. So, Mr. Tanner, following up on your comment that conservation hawks want whatever is going to go forward on climate action. Professor Fu, Sabrina Fu, says, we hear that a lot from organizations and definitely understand that perspective. However, will you consider helping that push?
Oh, we definitely push as hard as we possibly can. We've done videos and so forth with CCL in the past. And, I've published, you guys have a newsletter, I publish stuff in. So we are, we pay attention to what CCL does and we're, engaged and focused on helping in whatever way we can. But from the larger perspective, I think it just helps to have sportsmen who tend to run more conservative. Most sportsmen lean conservative rather than leaning progressive or liberal. And having those folks call up a senator, a representative, and say, this is important to me. This is something I want you to act on. Whether or not those sportsmen, name a particular bill, I think it helps to get a groundswell of opinion out there where there's some grassroots pressure building on, especially, members of the GOP who might not get that from anyplace else. So if we can get engaged in that and get people doing that, we're working on things like that literally today as we speak, trying to get sportsmen to, to call into their representatives, call into their senators, and just light that fire and let's get things going. We don't have a lot of time on this. This isn't something we can hold off on. So let's push as hard as we possibly can. And since our interests are aligned with CCL's, we want to help as much as we can.
Yes, sir. Definitely. I think one of the things that I've noticed myself is that, like I said, there's a disconnect right now. So I think the bulk of the work needs to be in laying the foundation and getting sportsmen riled behind climate action as much as possible right now, and then let the solutions come with it. So I agree with you. Get them riled up, get them calling, get them saying, hey, you need to do something about climate change, and then start educating on the policies that are out there that tend to lean towards, conservative morals and values, just like EICDA. Moving on, find another one here. Give one more question. So here's a good one from Lisa. And it just jumped. So hunting and fishing are key to food security here in Alaska, especially in rural Alaska. Have you approached the discussions with sportsmen and women from a food security stance? It's like, I know I get all my red meat from the woods. That's it's organic, it's low environmental impact, and all that other stuff. Don't have to pay for packaging. So, I can understand where this is a valid question, especially in certain communities. Have you guys ever approached it from that point of view as food scarcity?
Yeah, I haven't really looked at that in that angle now.
And Brian, I've written about that a little bit over the years. The issue is that right now, U.S. is a pretty big country, right? We're 330 million people, and we don't have enough wild fish and wild game to support our entire population. So I understand that's gonna be relevant to some sportsmen in certain situations, but most folks are still getting the vast majority of their food from supermarkets. And while I've eaten an awful lot of wild fish, wild game. I've got elk in the freezer right now. I'm one of the trout fishermen who will, who likes to eat fish on occasion. But at the same time, I don't know that that's something that we've focused on a whole bunch in the past. So.
Yeah. We are coming down towards the end of our time here, so I just want to take a moment and give you guys, if you got 15 seconds or less, anything you'd like to say, any last notes?
Yeah, I say, for outdoorsmen, climate change is just an additional stressor on our cold water fish, something we have to take serious. And, as an outdoorsman, want to pass things along to the next generation, so we have to do more. Keep up the good
work. Yeah, I'd agree with Brian. And the other thing I'd say is I would suggest to folks, stick to your strengths. If you're not a sportsman, don't try and talk to sportsmen about climate change.
Yeah.
If you are a hunter or an angler, then reach out to as many hunters and anglers as you possibly can. But, we're getting, it's apparently more tribal as time goes on, and communications are more effective with people who are like us. So stick with the folks who, are part of your everyday routine.
Definitely. Well, I definitely appreciate you guys coming and talking to us, giving us some of your time. If you are interested in doing more in this arena, please reach out to me, and I will definitely use all the help I can get. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Citizens Climate Lobby's training program. You can tune into more episodes anywhere podcasts are available. Inspired by what you heard today? Join Citizens Climate Lobby to advocate for bipartisan climate solutions. Go to community.citizensclimate.org to find more trainings, resources, your local chapter, national action teams, discussion forums, and more. Be sure to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and Instagram @CitizensClimate. We also invite all of our listeners to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiration. And together, we are creating the political will for a livable world.